Hi, I'm Brian Greenstone, the president of Pangea Software, and today I'll be demoing and giving you a behind-the-scenes look at the very best game Pangea Software has ever done, and that game is called Otto Matic. Otto Matic is an action-adventure game that's based on themes from sci-fi B-movies. In the game, you play a robot named Otto Matic, and his job is to save the humans who are being abducted by the evil brain aliens from Planet X. There are 10 huge levels in the game, 25 different types of enemies, lots of awesome weapons, and all sorts of tasks to complete. I don't want to give everything away, but you'll do things ranging from riding a zip line to piloting a flying saucer, maybe riding bumper cars, and a whole lot more. You have many ways of attacking enemies. You can fire your blaster, your freeze gun, flare gun, and so on, but you can also electrocute enemies by discharging a massive electrical surge. We call that attack the supernova. Otto also has the ability to fly short distances with his jump jet. The jump jet is used to cross hazardous areas and to smash through gates, among other things. The reason I think Otto Matic is the best game we've ever done is because of this amazing variety of gameplay. Unlike many other 3D action-adventure games where you pretty much know what to expect as you go through a level, in Otto Matic you have no idea what will be around the next corner. For example, here on level 1 there's a radioactive farm with giant mutant vegetables. I suppose you might say this is our parody of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Later in the game you'll encounter the Jaws bot, the Drill bot, and Hammer bot enemies. These enemies only appear in one place in the game, so it's things like this that really keep you interested in playing, and you'll always want to know what's going to appear next. Otto Matic is a great game with great gameplay. But that's not the only reason that it's our favorite game here at Pangea Software. Of all of the games that we've done, none has had so much thought and attention to detail put into it. When we were writing the design for Otto Matic, the two designers on the game, myself and Duncan Nahr, he's the same guy who worked on Enigmo and Bugdom 2, we had to sit through days of watching every old sci-fi movie that we could get our hands on, and we watched some really awful stuff. We watched things like the original Buck Rogers serials, this movie called They Came From Beyond Space, Devil Girl from Mars, and this one's got to be a classic of some sort. It's called The Brain from Planet Eros, and that one was so bad it was actually funny. But luckily we also got to watch some of the good classics, movies like Forbidden Planet and The Day the Earth Stood Still. One film that I really enjoyed was called Things to Come. It was released in 1936, and this is pretty much the sci-fi movie that set the tone of modern sci-fi movies to come after it. The special effects are remarkably good for the time, and if you're a fan of Futurama, you'll notice where quite a few elements in that show come from, especially the costumes. I really recommend watching this movie if you've never seen it because it's a fascinating piece of work to watch. People often refer to Star Trek as being the show that predicted many of today's technologies like cell phones and such, but Things to Come, I think, was even more ahead of its time. When you watch this film, it's hard to believe that it was made in the 1930s. Another great source of ideas for us were these two books by Bruce Hershenson and Richard Allen. There's one called Horror, Sci-Fi, and Fantasy Movie Posters, and the other one is called Attack of the B-Movie Posters. As you can imagine, just flipping through these books was enough to spark all sorts of great game ideas. I mean, how can you go wrong with Love Slaves of the Amazon? We didn't put that into the game. As with many of our iPhone games, Otto Matic was originally written for the Mac several years ago. But unlike our other ports, Otto Matic took much longer than normal to port over to the iPhone. All of our other games that we've done took about 2 weeks, but Otto Matic actually took about 4 weeks. Part of that was due to the sheer size of the game, because it is a large game, but the main speed bump was actually caused by a 3D file compatibility issue that we were having. Our iPhone game engine relies on having 3D models in our own custom file format that we call BG3D. we export our BG3D files with a plugin that we wrote for Maya, our modeler of choice. Unfortunately, Otto Matic predates our use of BG3D and Maya. All of the original files existed in either Form Z or 3D Studio format. So I had to go in file by file and manually convert every 3D model in the entire game. First, I would export an OBJ file out of Form Z, then I had to import every one of those OBJ files back into Maya, fix the conversion glitches such as botched vertex normals and inverted polygon faces, and then re-export them as our BG3D files. It sounds complicated and tedious, and it was. I had originally started porting Otto Matic in November of 2008. But about 4 days into development, I realized just how much effort it was going to be to get all of that model data converted. So we decided to put the project on hold until after the holidays. And then at the end of January, we started working on it again. And by the end of February, it was done. Let's talk about music for a second. The music in Otto Matic is superb, and it was composed by Alexander Dmitrijevic in Norway. We've worked with Alex on many other projects, including Billy Frontier, Nanosaur 2, and Bugdom 2. I told Alex that I wanted to go with a classic 1950s sci-fi theme for the music, and he delivered beautifully. The key to sci-fi music from that era was to use a musical instrument called the theremin. You know what the theremin is when you hear it. It's the instrument played at the beginning of the Beach Boys song Good Vibrations. That's one of the few successful attempts at using this device, but it's also used extensively in 1950s sci-fi movies. So Alex's music score really put the final touches on the game, and it gave it that all-around classic sci-fi feel that we were going for. Now, speaking of audio, I should also mention that Otto Matic uses the most number of sound effects of any game that we've ever done. As a matter of fact, this became a little bit of a concern for us because we weren't sure if we could get all those sound effects to fit into the iPhone's limited amount of RAM. Luckily, it all worked out in the end, and we didn't have to cut any sound effects, but we did have to knock them down from the original 44.1 kilohertz down to 22 kilohertz, but it ends up that on the iPhone speaker, you really can't tell the difference. It still sounds great. Well, that's the inside scoop on Otto Matic. It truly is the best game that Pangea Software has ever done, either for the Mac or the iPhone, and I can wholeheartedly say that it is the best action-adventure game available for the iPhone, so I hope you'll go to iTunes and check it out. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to change course a little and talk about a game that we did that nobody knows that we did, and that game is called Beer Bounce.